ॐ तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जनाः। Sri Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrita, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, recorded by M. Mahendranath Gupta. Dakshineshware Thakur Sri Ramakrishna, Tritiya Darshan, Sri Ramakrishna in Dakshineshwara, the third meeting of M with Sri Ramakrishna. The discussion in the different types of Jivas, beings. Jivas can be classified into four, Sri Ramakrishna says: Baddha Jiv, the bound souls; Mumukhu Jiv, those who are struggling for liberation; Mukta Jiv, those who have been liberated; Nitya Jiv, those who are ever liberated, always liberated, they never get into bondage at all. Then he is describing the nature of Baddha Jivas, though are attached to the world. He gives the example of fish. The fisherman casts the net and several fish get caught there. There are some fish who never get caught, because the moment the net is cast, they know that if you go near the net, you will be caught. So they escape even before they can be caught in the net. Then there are some souls who, though caught, realize that they are in deep danger. They struggle to get out, and some of them do get out. This is Mukta Jiv, free souls, who manage to escape. Then there are fish who are struggling to escape desperately, knowing that there is in great danger. They are Mumukhu Jiv, and bound souls do not even know that they are in deep danger, are not even aware that they have been caught and they will be killed and eaten. And they put their faces inside the mud in the net and cozily and happily think that they are safe. So these Baddha Jivas, those who do not even know, not even aware that they are in bondage, are being discussed now. The most important thing about spiritual life is that first be aware that things are not going well with you. Be aware you are in bondage. Be aware that you are in misery. This was the first lesson given by Gautam Buddha. When we read the teachings of Buddha, the four great noble truths called Arya Satta, noble truths, four of them, it appears so strange that these can be great truths. First truth, that there is misery. Second truth, there is a cause of this misery. Third truth, this misery can be overcome. Fourth truth, the way of overcoming this misery is through Ashtanga Marga. Is it necessary to be told that there is misery? Yes. Most of us do not even know that we are miserable. We do not even know that we are in bondage. We do not even know the terrible fact of disease, old age and death are staring us squarely in the face. This coronavirus pandemic, COVID-19, has clearly brought to the fore the evanescence of all enjoyment, the transience of everything, and the terrible fact of disease and death. This is a fact of life. Many people have called Buddha pessimistic. But this is not pessimism. This is the actual fact which is being repeatedly held before your eyes. This is the reality. This is what is going to happen to you. Therefore, constantly cogitate, contemplate, think, analyze your experiences. Janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha doshana darshanam. 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Trayodasha Adhyaya. Janma mrityu jara dukkha doshana darshanam. Anudarshana, constantly analyze these experiences. That there is dukkha. The Bhagavan therefore says, O Arjuna, knowing that this body into which you have come and this world in which you live is a transient, anitya and miserable dukkha, think of me and surrender to me. Anityam asukham lokam imam prapya bhajasvamam. O Arjuna, worship me, think of me, contemplate me, knowing that this world is anitya and asukha. Most of us are not even aware, except suddenly sometimes when we are deeply upset about something, we say, this world is absolutely miserable, there is nothing permanent in this world, there is nothing lasting in this world. We say ha ha and hoo, suddenly at some point, and forget the whole thing in the next moment. Sri Ramakrishna compares such kind of vairagya, momentary, transitory, sudden spurt of some kind of a dispassion in people. He compares it to a drop of water which is thrown on a hot frying pan. You just throw some water like that. For some moment there is a sizzling sound, next moment it vanishes. In exactly the same way, when we are face to face with the reality of misery, transient, death, disease, old age, then suddenly we seem to be waking up, but not yet. That's why Sri Ramakrishna says, the bound souls are not even aware. He gives a graphic description of the bound souls, Baddha Jiva. Baddha Jivera সংসারে কামিনী কাঞ্চনে বদ্ধ হয়েছে হাত পা বাঁধা. Poor people, what can they do? They are tied hands and feet. Who tied them? Nobody. It's our own karma which has bound us. It is our own ignorance and its own karma phala. We have chosen to get bound. Nobody has bound you. One of the disciples of Swami Vivekananda once told Swamiji, quoting from Shakespeare, this world is a stage in which we come to act our parts as actors. There's a huge drama going on. Then Swami Vivekananda smiled and said, but I think slightly differently, madam. What's it? This is a huge circus in which we, like clowns, we come to tumble down. You see how the clowns, they do somersault and they tumble down. So like a circus clown, we just come to tumble down. It's a very new idea. Then the disciple said, "Oh Swami, why do we tumble down?" Then Swami just smiled and said, "Because we like tumbling down. When we are tired of it, we quit. Nobody compels us. Suddenly we think we should tumble down. Suddenly we are born and then we say, one tumbling, we want to go for studies, go to the college, university, acquire degrees. And then we tumble down, we think we are great, we are so much, so and so. We get some positions and power. And another tumbling, we get some money, there's credit cards, mobile phones, Android, wealth, health, then wife and children, all kinds of things. Every moment we happily keep tumbling down and down and down. When we are no longer interested in tumbling down, we quit. It's a big game going on. We don't know why we do this. Why we are attached. Why you are doing all this? Why? Knowing full well that this is going to harm you, this is going to give you trouble, this is going to land you in misery, we chase it. The will o' the wisp, as Swamiji says. Suddenly the methane gas catches fire and you see in the deserts, etc., some fire. You see some light. And you chase it and nothing happens. The mirage. You feel terribly thirsty and see some water at a distance. You chase that water, you chase and chase, there is no water. There's a mirage which appears in the sand when it's become terribly heated. These are illusions of the mind. Swami Vivekananda wrote, "Thine only is the hand that holds the rope that drags thee on. Then cease lament. Let go thy hold, sannyasin bold. Say Om, Tat Sat Om." Thine only is the hand that leads you. Oh, this rope is leading me and I am going to fall into the ditch. Please, help me, this rope is constantly pulling me. Then the onlooker says, "My child," the Guru comes and tells you, the rope is not pulling you, you are holding the rope and getting pulled happily, consciously, claiming to be helpless. You are not helpless. You have the choice to give up the hold. But we will not give up the hold. We will hold on. This clinging to life, as Swamiji said, is the source of all misery. Bhagavan Buddha also said, this is clinging. He called it tanha, trishna, desire, this clinging. You cling to something, you can't leave it. We say, I want to give up but this is not giving me up. It's also very interesting. There's a story of one sadhu in the Himalayas feeling extremely cold. So he is praying, oh, I should get a blanket. I'm not able to bear this cold. He was talking to one of the other monks. Then he saw at a distance one blanket is floating in the Ganges. Then I said, there's a black blanket there. He jumped into the Ganges and took hold of the blanket, but he is not coming to the shore. The other monk, looking on, he said, "Hey, chhod do, come back. Kambal ko chhod do, leave the kambal, leave the blanket." Then he cried, "Kambal main to chhod deta hoon, kambal to nahi chhodta." I am giving up this blanket, but the blanket is not giving me up. Then they found it's a bear, bhaluk. One bear was holding and he could not leave it. In our case also, samsar to nahi chhodta. I want to give up samsara, but samsara is not leaving me. Why? Because once upon a time I got attached to samsara, and samsara has now found a taste about playing the trick of catching me. Then it says, oh, you caught me once, I am not going to leave you anymore. Same thing in attachments in this world. In the world, we get attached unnecessarily, needlessly, through marriage, through love, affection to individuals, emotionally getting involved. Then we realize, oh, I made a mistake, I should escape now. Then the other party will not leave you so easily. So how to escape? This is through Vairagya, tremendous power of the will. Your will collapses the moment you come into fact with the reality of attachment, reality of misery, reality of this transience of this world. You can't take it anymore. You are not courageous enough. You are not bold enough. You are not dispassionate enough. Then invoke the power of God. This is why the faith in God really counts. Anityam asukham lokam imam prapya bhajasva mam. O Arjuna, having been born into this world of misery and transience, worship me, hold on to me. That gives you tremendous hope. Believe that the Supreme Reality, the all-compassionate Lord, is there willing to save you. Invoke His grace, invoke His blessings, pray and cry. Please release me. I can't bear this anymore. I don't want. I made a mistake. Ramprasad says, Dosh karo noy goma আমি সখাত সলিলে ডুবে মরি শ্যামা দোষ কারো নয় গো মা. Oh mother, it is nobody's fault but me. I am now getting drowned in the deep well I myself dug. It's my karma. And in the waters of this well, I am getting drowned, I am about to die. Why should I blame anybody else? Sakhata solile dube muri. I am now getting drowned, immersed in this water of the well which I myself dug without purpose. No one but me to blame, as Swamiji said. Famous poem Swamiji wrote. No one but me to blame. So Sri Ramakrishna says, Hatpa Badha. They feel completely helpless, bound hands and feet. The divine power will come release them. Bhagavan Bhashyakara Shankaracharya, the great Advaitin Jnani, has written so many poignant stotras, hymns, in which he pleads helplessness. All this is for us, so that we can use these stotras for prayer. There is a beautiful hymn, stotra, to Vishnu as Lakshmi and Nrisimha. Lakshmi and Nrisimha stotram. He says, oh Lord, what can I do? I find myself in a deep pit, deep abandoned well, and tied hands and feet, hatva badha, says Ramakrishna says here. And I can't even get up. I can't even speak. How did I come to this state? Suddenly, 5 terrible dacoits entered into my house, and I couldn't recognize them initially. Then they said, "Hey, what do you have here? Come on, give me the key." Then they snatched the key of the treasure box which I had. In that I had stored the great treasure which I had called Viveka, Mahadhana. For years and years of practice, I had cultivated viveka, discrimination, and stored it in this box. They took away my viveka. I become completely deprived of the power to discern what is good from what is bad, what is real from what is unreal, what is permanent from what is impermanent. Completely became incapacitated, devoid of viveka. And then they bound me hands and feet and threw me into this abandoned well from which I am unable to get. Oh Lord, Lakshmi and Nrsimha, please lend your hand and pull me up. Andhasya me Hrita viveka mahadhanasya choreif prabho balibirindriya namadheyai mohanda kupakuhare vinipatitasya Lakshmi Nrsimha mama dehi karavalambam. What a beautiful expression. Andhasya me, I have been blindfolded. Hrita viveka mahadhanasya, the mahadhana, great wealth called viveka, I have lost. There's been plundered, there's been taken away. Choreif prabho, by these dacoits, balibhirindriya namadheyehi, by this powerful dacoits called the Indriyas. I asked them, who are you? Suddenly you come into my house and plundering like this. Are you familiar with my house? Yes, we know. You don't know who we are? You have been pampering us for thousands of janmas and now you are asking me, who are you? They are covering themselves with masks fully. Then they are opening. Can you see? Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. The eyes which see, the nose which smells, the ear which hears sounds, the tongue which tastes, and the skin which enjoys the pleasurable sensations of touch. These 5 powerful indriyas in the form of dacoits, thieves, choreif prabho balibhirindriya namadheyi, mohanda kupakuhare vinipatitasya. They bound me hands and feet. They didn't want to kill me, fortunately or unfortunately. Then they took me and threw me into this well from which I can't even get up. Suddenly I say, somebody says, who is this fellow? Is there somebody? Then they look and see in the dark, they see a form. Arya, this man we know. What happened to him? Then Lakshmi and Nrsimha, oh Lord, please lend your hand and pull me up from this well. I have no power, no capacity, no strength to come out of this well. Andhasya me Hrita viveka mahadhanasya choreif prabho balibhirindriya nama dheyai mohanda kupakuhare vinipatitasya Lakshmi Nrsimha mama dehi karavalambam. Pray, pray. Have faith in the Supreme Reality, in the infinite compassion of the Lord to save you. Oh Lord, save me. It's my mistake. I have pampered these indriyas for thousands of janmas because of my own fault. Sakhata solile dube mori. I have fallen into this deep pit, deep well, and I am getting drowned in the water of this well which I have dug with my own karma. Hatpa bandha, Ramakrishna's one statement. Because helplessly we are moving around. We do not know where we are going, where we are heading, how the whole thing is going to take a turn. Books used to come out some 10 years ago, and some of the great thinkers. Vision 2020. Everybody used to say, India is going to become a superpower. 2020 vision. What happened in 2020? The most miserable and the year in which the entire human race is crying and becoming devastated. The entire globe has been completely almost extinguished of its enthusiasm, power, vision, nothing. You do not know why it happens, how it happens. The future is so terrible. The present is tense. So pray. हाथ पा बांधा कामनी कांचनते सुख होबे আর নির্ভর হয়ে থাকবে. They think in enjoyment of woman and gold, enjoyment of sense of pleasures, power and position and wealth and sensory, sensual pleasures. In this world, all pleasure consists of only these. জানে না অতি মৃত্যু হবে. They do not know that it's just equivalent to death. Just like they say, one insect, it gets attracted to fire. The moment there is fire, it runs towards the fire and falls into it and gets burnt. বদ্ধ জীব যখন মরে তার পরিবার বলে তুমি তো চললে আমার কি কি করে গেলে. When he is about to die, then his wife comes and tells him, so you are leaving me and going away, what did you do for me? And আবার এমনি মায়া যে প্রদীপটাতে বেশি সলতে জ্বললে বদ্ধজীব বলে তেল পড়ে যাবে সলতে কমিয়ে দাও এইদিকে মৃত্যুশয্যায় শুয়ে আছে. Is almost at the point of death, gasping. Then he sees that the oil is getting burnt a little too much. So he says the wick has to be slightly lessened so that less oil is consumed and is just at the point of death. So much attachment to this world. বদ্ধ জীবরা ঈশ্বর চিন্তা করে না. যদি অবসর হয় তাহলে অবল তবল ফালতু গল্প করে নয় মিছে কাজ করে. What a graphic description of the worldly people. These worldly people who are bound, they can't think of God, they don't want to think of God or pray to God. What do? If they get some time, অবল তবল ফালতু গল্প করে. Exactly what we do. They go on indulging in useless talk and gossip. Paracharcha, paraninda. Constantly discussing others. He did this, she did that. What is happening to he, she, we, you. People, discussing people's lives. And paraninda, constantly criticizing everything. There are some people who just can't remain without criticizing everything. They'll criticize the governments, criticize the neighbors, criticize their friends, criticize their wife and children, criticize their office boss, criticize everything day and night. Paracharcha, paraninda, discussing others and criticizing others. Abol tabol falto boke. Falto in Bengali means useless, meaningless. Abol tobol is a very interesting phrase in Bengali. Abol tobol means rambling, meaninglessly talking about things which are useless. So these people, gossip mongers, constantly waste their time in talking. So Swami Brahmananda ji, Raja Maharaj, used to say, gossip is the worst enemy of spiritual life. If you don't feel like talking, just sleep off. Don't disturb anybody. Constant gossiping takes away all your energy and time, and your psychic energy, the prana shakti, is completely wasted in gossip. Purushartha anupayoginaha. This is the language used by Shayana in the Medha Suktam. Based on Shayanacharya's commentary, Swami Vimalananda has given the statement. No Purushartha is being served by this kind of gossip. Purushartha, dharma, artha, kama and moksha. If you talk about dharma, you are elevated. Even artha, if you talk about, it is some Purushartha. Even kama, you feel some pleasure in talking about it. And moksha is the highest. But gossip, paracharcha, paraninda, discussing others and criticizing others, that doesn't lead you to the accomplishment of any of these purusharthas, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Why is this happening to us? Because that awakening has not happened. The Medha Suktam in the Vedas says, O Medha Devi, before you came to my heart, before you got awakened in my consciousness, I was wasting my time discussing useless things, gossiping, but after you have come and after Medha has been awakened in me, I will now discuss great things, Brahman, Atman, God, spirituality, with my worthy sons and grandsons, if you are a householder, or disciples and grand disciples, if you are not a householder but a sannyasin. Tvaya jushta nudamana duruktaan bruhadvadema vidathe suviraha Tvaya jushta rishir bhavati devi. Medha Suktam. Before you came, Jushta, I was happy. Jushamana, Nudamana, two versions are there. Nudamana means rejecting, Jushamana delighting. Duruktan Jushamana. We were delighting in useless talk, profitless talk, meaningless talk. In gossip, we are so happy. How much time we waste in talking and gossiping about everybody else. Suppose we have an auto recorder in your pocket all the time and record what you have talked the whole day and listen to it yourself. You will feel extremely ashamed. If we record what we speak the whole day and listen to our own recording, our heads will just hang in shame. Have I talked such useless things? Have I been gossiping so shabbily and badly? Shame on me, fie on me, dhi kamar. So he says, Abol tobol phaltu boke. Ramakrishna's expression exactly is the Medha Suktam. Jushamana duruktan. Now since you have come into my heart, Medha has been awakened in my consciousness. What should I do? What will I do? Bruhad vadema Vidathe suviraha Brihad vadema. Vadema, we will talk. Brihat, huge things. What is the hugest thing? Brahman. Brahma comes from Brahma, big. I will talk about God. Yad bhuma vaitat sukham na alpe sukham asti. I will talk about the bhuma. I will talk about big things. I will talk about great things. I will talk about Brahman, Atman, spirituality. So automatically, the tendency to constantly indulge in useless gossip will completely drop away from you. There's a beautiful English saying which says, great people discuss principles, mediocre people discuss events, and small people discuss people. Discuss men. You Tattva Jnana, principles, spiritual principles, Vedanta, Yoga. So those who are enlightened will constantly be talking about all this. Great people discuss principles. Mediocre people discuss events. What happened that? What happened here? What kind of event happened? At least events they discuss. Happenings. Small people, in Bengali contemptuously, they are called Chotolok. In Bengali, Chotolok means a person despicable, small, useless, contemptible. Small people, what do? They discuss other people. You know, what happened to him, what happened to her, what she did, what he did, what he may do. Constantly they are worried about what that person wore today, what he ate today. Most useless information, constantly discussing people all the time. So let us not discuss all these useless things. Abal tabal faltu boke golpo kore, faltu golpo kore. They go on spinning stories and discussing. Noi miche kaj kore. Miche means useless, false, meaningless. They indulge in useless work. Jigyasha korle bole, ami chup kore thakte pari na, tai beda bandchi. Suddenly he is some fence he is building around his house. Then you see, I am always a man of action, so I just can't keep quiet, and therefore I am doing this fencing. Plenty of time is available. Now the Corona has given us so much time, but people are restless, people are depressed, people are unhappy. People constantly are on the phone. Oh, this Corona has given such a free access to all kinds of telephones, smartphones. It is useful for online classes and so on, but how much of time, energy is lost in useless talk. So he says, I can't keep quiet, so I am indulging all kinds of useless things. হয়তো সময় কাটে না দেখে তাস খেলতে আরম্ভ করে. It's very interesting. People, how they waste their time in cards, playing cards. All kinds of games are there. Rummy, and bridge, and all kinds of games. And you go to the club, you pick up friendship from people, you party, socialize, and play cards because you have plenty of time now. How Ramakrishna has observed so closely and then discussing the nature of these worldly people who are bound souls, who are bound hands and feet and just can't find any taste in God, ruchi. See, we may not be great sadhakas, we may not be greatly spiritual people, but at least develop some taste in higher things. taste means you feel happy about it. You feel joy in discussing it and thinking about it. How does the taste come? By constantly cultivating it. When we start drinking tea or coffee, most of you must have experienced this. In the beginning, it's like so bitter. Oh, coffee, how will people enjoy this taste? Then you slowly get accustomed. After some time, it's so tasty. Those who become addicted to alcohol, that's the same problem. It's so smelly, so terrible. Some people vomit. Their head becomes terribly reeling sensation in their head. But slowly get addicted, you can't leave it. Everything depends on your cultivation of a taste for it. Begin cultivating a taste for God. This is the beginning of sadhana. This is called Name Ruchi, in the name of God. Nama Sankirtana, singing the glory of God. Cheto Darpanam Arjanam Bhavamaha Davagdinirvapanam. Bhavamaha Davagdinirvapanam. It completely puts out the fire of worldliness. Shreyas Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadhu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatmasnapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's famous stotra Shikshashtakam. There he says, you develop a taste for Nama Sankirtana. Anandambudhi Vardhanam. It increases the joy. Purna Amrita Aswadanam. Just like you're tasting nectars, tasting something extremely sweet and elevating. Aswadana means tasting. Now we are tasting the Vishaya Madhu. There is some little joy and pleasure in the Vishaya, of course. Tasting the Vishaya Madhu, we are completely lost. So the great saints have sung, O mind, if you taste the nectar of Divine Mother Kali, Divine Mother Shama's lotus feet, the Amrita, the Madhu, all the ordinary Vishaya Madhu, the little honey which you find in the sense pleasures, will simply become insipid, tasteless, meaningless. Vishaya Madhu tuchha holo, Kamadi kusum sakale, Majlo amar manubhramara, Shama pada nil kamale, Shama pada nil kamale, Kali pada nil kamale, Majlo amar manubhramara. Kamalakanta. Simple song. Kamalakanta is telling his own mind, oh mind, develop the taste for the Madhu, the Amrita, which is flowing from Divine Mother's lotus feet. And then you will see the little honey which you are now sipping in the various objects of desire, the sense objects, that will appear to be meaningless, insipid, insignificant. compared to the infinite joy of the realization of God, this will appear nothing. There is a beautiful story in Ramanujacharya's life. Ramanuja, as you know, next only to Shankaracharya, is one of the outstanding Vedantic Acharyas who established the Vishishtadvaita Siddhanta in Vedanta, the qualified non-dualism, as we call it. In his life, there is a very interesting incident which illustrates this fact. There was a person, his name was Dhanurdhara, who was so deeply attached, infatuated madly with his paramour, a woman, a very handsome, good-looking woman. So constantly he was doting upon her and trying to please her all the time. And on one occasion, when there was a Nagara Parikrama of the deity, you know, the temples, the Utsava Murti as they call it in southern part of India. So there's Murti, the image of the Lord is being carried in a ratha or a palanquin, and all the devotees are walking with it barefoot, chanting, singing, worshipping, throwing flowers, and all the devotees from their houses, they come and see worship. The whole place is full of God's thought, and the sound of the chanting and singing of God's glory is everywhere. Ramanuja is also walking along. This man, Dhanurdhara, with an umbrella, he was holding on the head of this lady and constantly looking at her face, nothing else. Madly. Everybody is laughing. Some people are calling him names. Somebody says, shame, shame. Lord is now coming out, and then everybody is worshipping the Lord. This fellow is so deeply attached to this woman. What kind of person is he? Throw him out, and so on. Ramanuja said, wait, I'll ask him. He called this man. You fellow, when the Lord himself has come out with so much of beauty, and then alankara, and then flowers and mala and all that, everybody is chanting and singing, and the Nama Sankirtana is going on, and you are constantly looking at the face of this woman. Are you not feeling ashamed? Why are you doing this? What is the charm? You tell me. Then with tears he said, Oh Lord, oh Prabhu, Ramanuja, you are such a great saint, but I can't help myself. That devilish eyes, they attract me so terribly, I can't just take my eyes off those eyes, those pair of eyes. The pair of devilish eyes. I just can't bear to take my mind away from it. Then Ramanuja said, suppose I show you a infinitely more beautiful pair of eyes, would you give up this infatuation? That man said, it's just impossible. I have seen so many. There is no such pair of eyes which is more beautiful than this. Ramanuja said, come with me to the temple. Even the Srirangam temple, where Mahavishnu is lying as Ananta Shayana, lying on his Adishesha, serpent bed. You know how Mahavishnu, in a sleeping posture, Aratrikam is going on, and when the light was being shown around the face of the Lord, Rama said, look at the eyes of the Lord. And he saw, because of Ramanuja's great grace and power, completely transformed. He became he lost consciousness. What eyes, what beauty. Completely changed. He and his paramour wife They became great disciples of Ramanuja. So what is the lesson? If you want to give up worldly thought, cultivate divine thought. Because the mind cannot live in vacuum. Don't say, oh mind, don't think of all this. It has to think something. If you don't feed it with high thoughts, it will go to low thoughts. Ramana Maharshi, the great saint of Arunachala in the south, constantly used to harp on Atmavichara, self-inquiry, inquire into who you are. Then one person who was very deeply devoted to him came and helplessly said, oh Bhagavan, I can't do Atmavichara, I feel sleepy, I feel a blank. What will happen if I do not do Atmavichara? Ramana Maharshi quietly smiled and said, if you don't do Atmavichara, you will do Lokavichara. The beautiful statement. The mind has to do some vichara. Vichara means thought. Mind has to contemplate, think, cogitate. That is the nature of the mind. If you do not fill the mind with thoughts of Atman, Brahman, God, higher consciousness, the mind will constantly think about the world, worldly objects, worldly desires. If you don't do Atma Vichara, the mind will do Loka Vichara. Atma samstam manakritva na kinchidapi chintayet yato yato nistarati manas chanchalam asthiram tatastato niyamyetad atmanyeva vasham nayet. The Bhagavad Gita. Beautiful lesson it gives. Atma samstam manakritva, completely absorb your mind in the Atman. Kinchidapi chintaye, don't think of anything else. Don't allow any other thought to enter the mind. Suppose it enters, then what do I do? As and when any other thought enters the mind, constantly pull it out and try to place it upon the Atman. This is called dharana in yoga. You know the Ashtanga Marga in the yoga, Ashtanga Yoga. After asana, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. Dharana is constantly trying to take the mind and put it on that supreme consciousness or the goal. Pratyahara and dharana. Take the mind away from the outside objects and fix it on the Atman. Then the dharana becomes ripened, it matures into dhyana, and dhyana later matures into samadhi, in which you get completely absorbed in the object of your meditation. All the paths talk about this. So the easiest way to take your mind away from worldly objects is to cultivate divine thoughts. Worldly thoughts should be replaced by divine thoughts. This can be done through japa. Cultivate the habit of constantly chanting stotras, singing in low voice to yourself. Japa, so that the tongue, the blessed tongue which God has given us to express His glory. Human beings, the Vak is a gift of God to the human beings. You can express divine thoughts. Jukhve kirtaya keshavam muraripam cheto bhaja sridharam Mukundamala stotra. Jukhve kirtaya keshavam. O Jukhva, O tongue, constantly sing the glories of God. So if you form the habit of chanting, memorize some stotras, memorize some passages from the Vedas and the Upanishads. In a low voice to yourself, keep chanting. Don't allow the mind to be idle at all. When you're doing some mechanical work, where the mind is not need not be fully involved, in that mechanical work, keep chanting. One very interesting mechanical word is cooking. In this Corona period, all of you know how most people spend so much time in the kitchen. Another mechanical, washing clothes. There's nothing for you to think about it. So the sweeping the floor, keeping everything tidy. So many such mechanical actions are there in which you find that the mind is vacant. So what we do at such moments, you have a headphone, you have a microphone attached to your collar, keep on talking. Don't do that. Chant. Stotras. Some people listen rather than chanting. They listen to stotra, they listen to songs. That could be a good habit. But dependence once again on gadgets becomes a problem. If you can't get a gadget, you're stuck. So constantly cultivate the habit of the tongue reciting, chanting, singing the glory of God, so that the mind is saturated with the thought of God. It can't move away from God and think of anything else. The story in the Kathamrita, beautiful story. Story of Kaka Bhushundi. There is a kak, crow. His name was Bhushundi. Rama and Lakshmana is going to the Pampa river for bath. They saw one crow. It is dying of thirst. And to drink water, it goes near the pond. It tries to sip some water but does not. Again comes back. Again goes. Does not sip water, comes back. So it goes on and on. Then Lakshmana is asking Rama, brother, what is this? This crow is so strange, so foolish, so stupid. It is dying of thirst, but is going to the pond again and again and again, but is not drinking water, sipping water. Why? How foolish. Then Rama, the omniscient Sarvagya Bhagavan, said, oh Lakshmana, brother, you do not really know. What a touching story in the Kathamrita. This crow is a great devotee of mine. It is constantly chanting the name of Rama. And lest the continuous unbroken chanting of Rama gets interrupted even for a millisecond when it sips water, it does not want to drink water at all. So it's ajapa, ajapa. It's possible. It's not difficult at all. Kriya Yoga has exemplified it. Ajapa, ajapa sadhana. It is there in tantras and many of the practices of the yoga. You cultivate the japa to such an extent constantly that unconsciously the japa will be, the mantra will be chanted by you even without your knowing. Japa without japa. Ajapa japa. It's a very interesting coinage. Even without a conscious attempt, even without being aware of it, japa will be going on. Example, your breathing, for example. When you breathe, are you conscious? Are you conscious of your digestion? Are you conscious of your blood circulation? It's going on. Whether you are sleeping, whether you are sitting, whether you are reading, whatever you are doing, your breathing is going on, blood circulation is going on, digestion is going on. These involuntary actions in the body, biological functions are constantly going on. Exactly the same way, is it possible for you to make the chanting of Lord's name spontaneous, continuous, unbroken, uninterrupted? It is possible. Just like a breathing. With every breath, you take the name of God. It's called the prayer of the heart. With every beating of the heart, with every movement of your lungs, with every breath, the japa is going on. Sri Sri Ma Sharada Devi, Holy Mother, said she used to do japa more than 1,00,000 of times. Lokhadik job kortum. How is it possible? You can make a quick calculation of how many seconds are there in a day, 24 hours, multiplied by 60 minutes in each hour, multiply 60 seconds in each minute. That also you cannot reach 1,00,000. That means, what is the secret? The secret is, how many times you breathe in a day? How many thoughts arise in your mind? 1,00,000? Several lakhs? Infinite number of thoughts constantly rise in your mind. If every thought is a mantra, then you have lakhs of japa. This is a great secret of japa sadhana, whose source is in the Taittiriya Upanishad Bhashya of Shankara, when he discusses the Manomaya Kosha, Rigdakshina Pakshaha, Samottara Pakshaha, Atharvangirasa Pucham Pratishtha. There Shankaracharya discusses the mantra very briefly, and based on that, there's a huge book called Japarhasyam in Bengali, which remarkably discusses how every mantra becomes, every thought becomes a japa, as it were. So if you cultivate the habit even consciously of allowing the japa to go on while work is also going on, how is it possible? Don't neglect work and do japa. That is meaningless, foolish. Don't get engrossed in japa and forget mantra. That's also foolish. So how do you do both? Work and worship should go hand in hand, as Swami Brahmananda said. How is that possible? That is possible by allowing the mantra to constantly, spontaneously arise in your heart, and with every breath the mantra will be chanted. It is possible by practice and by grace of God. In that case, your mantra is not a conscious effort, chanting. It is consonant with your heartbeats and movement of lungs and the breathing. So it is called the prayer of the heart in the Christian mysticism. It is not from the mind that the mantra chanting takes place, but the heart which is involved. This heart is the spiritual heart, the awakened heart, which is the seat of higher consciousness, which is called in Vedanta as the Hridaya Akasha, Dahara Akasha, which is called in Yoga as Hrit Padma, which is called in Tantra as Hrit Chakra. It is called the Vijnanamaya Atma in the Upanishad. Yo yam Vijnanamaya praneshu hridyantar jyotihi. This japa, constantly arising in the heart, is accompanied by a vision of a luminosity which is not created. An uncreated light, which is also spoken of by the Christian mystics, and an unstruck sound, anahata dhvani, which is the mantra Om, constantly arising. So Sri Ramakrishna, this simple sentence has so much of meaning. If you engage in this sadhana, cultivate it, consciously, slowly it becomes unconscious, then your whole life becomes blessed. Not a single moment is wasted in anything apart from God. Om Niranjanam Nityamanantarupam Bhaktanukampa Vigraham Vai Ishavataram Parameshamidyam Tam Ramakrishnam Sharasa Namamaha. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.